Do we have a listing of how many people have crossed our southern border that we have identified in this fiscal year that are special interest aliens? Director Ray, do you know that number?
I don't know that number, but we could follow up with you to see if that's something we could provide.
We know the number is in the thousands, but have not been able to get a specific number nor a specific tracking on that.
All right, that was our next guest questioning FBI Director Christopher Wray last week on the number of special interest aliens that are entering the U.S. illegally each and every day, which by definition is any non-U.S. person who, based on travel patterns, potentially poses a national security risk to the United States. That means a possible nexus to terrorism.
Yeah, in the past 4.5 months alone, 58 people on the terror watch list have crossed into the country illegally, but the exact number of all threats like this remains unknown. For more on this, let's welcome in Oklahoma Senator James Lankford this morning. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning to you.
So if the FBI is not contacted for each of these special interest alien crossings, how concerned should we be that these people are moving freely about the country and could have ties to terror cells?
Yeah, that's been my concern for months now, that we continue to be able to see the rise in this number, and the administration's been very withholding of information, trying to be able to keep us from finding out exactly how many people are on this list. As you mentioned, we have 58 people on the terror watch list, but the special interest alien list, these are people we don't know. They may be in the same family, travel with in the same travel pattern, come from areas of known terrorism, or travel with terrorists that we know that risk is there, but we don't know anything about them. So they're listed as a special interest alien right now. As far as we can tell, they're just being released into the country pending a hearing. They're freely roaming around the country, and we believe the number is in the thousands of people that this administration has identified as a national security risk, but has not detained them.
Senator, how concerned are you that we are sleepwalking into another terrorist attack here on U.S. soil?
Yeah, that's been my concern for a long time, because this administration is unwilling to be able to enforce the border the same way President Trump did, or even the same way President Obama did. If they would just do it that way, that would be better than what they're doing right now. But they continue to say, we don't want people at the border being detained, so we'll release them into the country. They can go wherever they want to. We'll figure it out later. We know just in the past several months, they released somebody that was on the terror watch list and then had to go chase them down. They were loose in the country, picked them up in Minnesota, actually. But we also know that there are thousands of people that are on this special interest alien list that DHS designates, but the FBI doesn't even know it. They're not coordinating between DHS and the FBI to be able to know who they are, where they are, even at the beginning, much less where they are 2 days later.
Senator, I just said it's true. By the way, when you mentioned President Obama, the border was more secure under President Obama. You said now, famously, at the State of the Union, it's true, when President Biden was referencing the border bill that you co-sponsored. You've had a few weeks to sort of process what happened. You worked so hard for such a long time to put that bill together. It didn't really pick up a lot of momentum in the Senate or certainly in the House. What do you think now, looking with hindsight, what do you think went wrong with it?
Yeah, I think not enough people were actually engaged on the Senate Republican side to be able to have ownership of it. The bill itself did, as President Biden lists off of the State of the Union, did increase the number of border agents, did dramatically decrease the time it would take to do a hearing. It did dramatically increase the standard of what it would be for asylum. It added more border wall. It did faster deportations. It did all of those things. But it ended up getting caught up in a lot of internet rumors. A lot of people started saying, well, it lets 5,000 people in a day. And so if it lets 5,000 people in a day, that's a problem. That's not true. The bill does not, quote unquote, let 5,000 people in a day. The very first person that crossed every day was detained, had a very fast screening, and was deported. But by the time you got to 5,000, we're overwhelmed. Current policy is they're just all released in. We changed that to say you're just detained and deported. There is no hearing. So we literally took away due process at 5,000. But the first person was detained, screened, and deported. But again, it got lost in all the politics of the day and the moment. We'll come back to it, because the issue is we had about 7,000 people illegally cross the border yesterday.
Yeah.
Biden's got to do what he can do. He clearly has authorities he's not using, but there are issues even President Trump asked for when he was president to be able to fix the asylum process. Congress has to do its job as well.
I just want to get your reaction to the Supreme Court siding with Texas to enforce its law to allow state officials to arrest people suspected to have crossed illegally into the state. But now it's been put on hold once again by a federal appeals court. Senator, what do you make of this? What happens next?
Yeah, what happens next is today there's a hearing in that Fifth Circuit. And what the Supreme Court did is they lifted the stay and we're going to allow the law to go into effect. So they didn't really rule on it as far as the constitutionality. They said they want to keep it going. They're not going to stop its enforcement until the hearings are done. The Fifth Circuit then took it right back where it was before. They did put a stay on it, said we're going to do a hearing on it on Wednesday today, and then we'll know more after that. But at this point, it's still live, in the sense that there's going to be a hearing. They're going to be able to look at it and to be able to find out if Texas is going to be able to do its own enforcement. As you know, Arizona had a different version. They were blocked from enforcing that a decade ago. Texas said, we learned the lesson from Arizona. We wrote this law differently. We do not want people illegally present in our country, and Texas law enforcement is willing to step up if the federal government is not willing to do that. So it'll be in the Fifth Circuit today.
Yeah, Senator, I've never seen, by the way, a court in this case, an appeals court. Boy, they responded quickly. I wish they operated that fast for everyday Americans, but when it comes to illegals, my goodness, the Supreme Court 6-3 lickety-split. This federal appeals court overturns that within a couple of hours. I mean, it kind of goes back to this notion that maybe the books are cooked here, that the Biden administration or whomever on the Democratic side of the aisle maybe applied some pressure, but the swiftness with which this ruling came down yesterday was shocking to me. I went to bed thinking the show today was going to be about one topic. Instead, it's about how fast this ruling was overturned. Senator James Lankford, good to see you. We'll have you back soon. Thank you.
Good to see you.